Millions of dollars are spent every year on corporate training seminars that fail to change a single daily behavior. When a department underperforms, management usually defaults to a workshop. We throw training at the problem, hoping a slide deck fixes missed quotas or safety violations. Human resources professionals rely on a sharper diagnostic tool. They split performance failure into two categories: the can't-do problem and the won't-do problem. If an employee knows how to do the job but refuses, that's a won't-do issue. A training seminar is useless. This requires a structural change, transfer, or new incentive structure. But if you isolate a genuine can't-do problem, a literal skill deficit, the solution must be engineered. You cannot guess what the employee needs to learn. Effective development operates as a closed-loop system. It exists to isolate specific performance gaps and eliminate them through measurement. That system is built on the ADDIE framework. This is the standard for instructional design: analyze, design, validate, implement, and evaluate. It begins with the analyze phase. Here, we identify specific job skills required and define measurable performance objectives. Next, we move through design, validation, and implementation. Here, the curriculum is compiled, tested on a small audience, and deployed to the target workforce. The final mechanism is evaluation. We assess the program's success and feed that data directly back. By following this cycle, organizations ensure that training investments are tied directly to operational outcomes, rather than administrative intuition. You cannot build a rigorous training program off a standard job description. Trainers require a forensic breakdown of daily operations. This requires a task analysis. We conduct a detailed study of the role to identify the precise technical movements and knowledge an employee needs to succeed. This chart is a task analysis record form. It maps what it takes to operate a paper cutter. Notice how it divides a single job into minute, sequential subtasks, from setting cutting distance to grasping safety releases. It also defines the specific work environment, like a noisy, distracting press room. Crucially, it establishes precise quality metrics, like a tolerance of 0.007 inches. That metric provides the exact goal for the instructional content. The task analysis provides the technical baseline. From here, the instructional design can begin with actual data points rather than assumptions. Once the skill gap is isolated, we enter the design phase. We have to match the newly identified skill to the correct instructional modality. The primary and most cost-effective delivery mechanism is known as on-the-job training. The trainee learns by actually producing work. Complex technical roles have historically relied on this method. A new hire running an industrial printing press learns through immediate coaching and feedback from an experienced worker in the live environment. But on-the-job training carries an inherent risk. It introduces novice errors into a live production floor. When the cost of ruined materials or the danger to the employee is unacceptably high, organizations shift to off-the-job methods like vestibule or simulated training. You use simulated, off-the-job environments to safely drill high-stakes skills where failure is fatal. For modern workforces, this delivery scales through video conferencing and teletraining, allowing a single expert to reach remote groups simultaneously. Selecting a training method is ultimately a calculated risk management decision, balancing financial cost, workplace safety, and instructional fidelity. The final step of the ADDIE loop is evaluation. Most organizations fail here. They hand out a survey to measure how the trainees felt about the course. True validation requires measuring the actual behavioral changes on the floor and gathering objective results through controlled experimentation. This chart illustrates the most rigorous method for isolating a training program's impact: the time series design. First, we establish a quantitative baseline. We track output quality for weeks before any instruction occurs, revealing a steady rate of underperformance. The training intervention is then introduced and isolated as a single variable. By tracking the data immediately after, we see the behavioral shift. The performance quality climbs and stabilizes at a higher tier, proving the instruction moved the needle. If this graph flatlines, the ADDIE loop failed. If it rises, HR has successfully engineered human capital. Mastering a single technical subtask yields zero return if the employee leaves the company 6 months later. Retention relies on the psychological contract. This is the unwritten agreement outlining the mutual expectations between an employer and an employee. Historically, businesses relied on a traditional focus. They traded wages and benefits for an employee's time and raw productivity. A career development focus matches employees to roles based on their career interests and a wider range of variables beyond current productivity. Under the modern psychological contract, employees trade their performance for continuous learning and development that keeps them marketable in the broader economy. Organizations have to stop viewing training as a sunk administrative cost. It is their primary retention tool. To manage this contract effectively, HR departments must recognize that a worker's developmental needs change drastically over their lifetime. A professional life generally moves through 5 chronological phases, as seen in this career cycle model. A new hire in the exploration or early establishment stage requires a different curriculum than a senior worker securing their legacy in the maintenance stage. Long-term success also depends on Holland's theory of career choice. The training pathway should align with an individual's occupational orientation, whether they are a doer, a thinker, or a creator. The tighter the alignment between an organization's operational needs and these individual orientations, the stronger the psychological contract becomes. True human resource development requires mastery of both the micro and the macro. It is the precise execution of daily tasks, nested within the lifelong trajectory of human ambition.